The intercom transcribed at 1:56 a.m. The voice it named wasn't mine. I'm not jealous of bodies, I'm jealous of permissions. Bodies tell the truth if you stop staging them. Permissions decide which truth is allowed to arrive. At 1:56 a.m., our building's new intercom, polite as a maitre d' who moonlights as a court reporter, pushed a notification to my phone, transcript saved. It's row for Ash. Below it, a perfect, cheerful mischief. Door opened, guest code accepted. The waveform looked like a heartbeat someone had tried to iron. Ash had texted at 10:41. Board wants one more drink. Don't wait up. He's good at the part of theater that lives in lobbies, making donors feel plausible and actors feel witnessed. At 7:05, I filmed the coffee because ritual is cheaper than religion and keeps better hours. I captioned it here. He reacted with the thumbs up he saves for nights that intend to rename themselves. The intercom didn't rename anything, it confessed. The apartment had the posture rooms get when they've rehearsed a story without you. The radiator breathed like an amateur chorus. The long mirror beside the plants practiced being neutral. I boiled water because water doesn't audition. It commits to heat and lets time do the rest. When the kettle sang, it sounded like a witness clearing its throat. At 3:02, the lock obliged with the same small grace. Ash stepped in with his jacket folded over his arm and his shoes hooked by two fingers like witnesses too tired to lie. He kissed the air near my cheek, our administrative truce, and then saw the screen glowing on the counter, neat as a ledger. "You're up," he said, as if etiquette had mailed me a warning. "The intercom knows who you are," I said. "It likes the men who say your name." His pupils turned into clocks, that dilation that arrives just before he chooses a verb. He set his shoes down like small boats that had learned humility and put both palms on the table the way our therapist taught us when we needed to give words somewhere to land. The gesture is either dignity or triage. "Which question?" he asked. "Why or who?" "Why," I said, because Matt, my emergency adult, kicks me under imaginary tables when I lead with names. If I start with who, the transcript writes our minutes. "Because the scene wouldn't land," Ash said. He looked at the patch of wall where the paint keeps wanting to retire without ceremony. "Because donors clapped in the wrong places and demanded to be forgiven with gin. Because the lark turned the lighting to flattery and no one could remember the key. Because Roe, yes, said he had notes he trusted more upstairs than in a bar. Because he said the hallway was quieter than pretending. Because I let a guest code do the work my mouth should have." "Did you kiss him?" I asked, breaking Matt's superstition like a boy with a stick and a fence. "In the stairwell," he said. "Once, small and honest and wrong, I told him I didn't like the way the building listened. He laughed. I came home." "I hate how sane that sounds," I said, the sentence I keep for mercy that arrives before I can match its tone. We didn't sleep. We did something more humiliating and useful. We agreed on daylight like a treaty and texted Roe to meet us at noon, when cities pretend to be merciful and men believe in sentences, not scenes. We walked to the cafe beneath our building. The door recognized my phone and tried to perform an apology. Inside, Rose stood by the window with a paper cup and the posture of someone prepared to pay for his verbs. He didn't pretend surprise, my favorite trick in men who owe a room honesty. "I was coming to apologize," he said, "to you both and to whatever part of your door thinks it's a priest. He loves you." He nodded toward Ash. "I like being near that. I'm sorry my notes use the same grammar as desire." "You don't get to call it ours," I said, "because cleverness is my superstition and I tithe when I'm anxious. Rehearsal is a room, a kiss is a scene, a guest code is an invitation. You don't get to be the verb in our kitchen." Roe lifted his hands like a man willingly frisked. Then let me be the silence you keep, he said. His mouth managed something like decency. He left his cup, his apology, and the door's memory behind. At home, I moved the kitchen chair to the center of the room because procedures save men when gods won't. Ash smiled like a man relieved to be caught kindly. He came around the table and paused, always that pause, his most decent habit. I met him halfway. The first kiss was apology without speeches. The second had his fingers under my shirt and my hand at the back of his neck, the place he keeps for oaths and sleep. We didn't perform a ceremony. We used heat as a system. If I could draw you the rest without getting evicted by an algorithm that prefers virtue louder than accuracy, I would. Keep the inventory, one breath belonging to both of us, a belt resigning with grace, a wrist pinned with permission and not claim. The room did not applaud. It didn't need to. The city prefers quizzes. 2 nights later, the theater's account posted a carousel at 1:41 a.m. Hand saw light in the green room mirror, 4 bodies if you counted reflections. Ash washing his hands, head down. Row behind him, tie undone. A stranger crossing the frame like a rumor. Me in the doorway because someone, helpful as a fire drill during an apology, had tagged my name. The caption said, "Boys being brave." Comments declared absolutes. I typed nothing. I turned the phone face down. I placed the chair in the center again, until the room remembered it wasn't a witness stand. When Ash came home, he handed me his phone without instructions. "Delete or archive," he said. "I don't want new grammar." "You don't need me to erase your verbs," I said. He rested his forehead against mine like a paperweight on a better draft. 3 days later, the email arrived in fonts that have never had to apologize to a kitchen. Residency, 7 days, quiet rooms, kind windows. Ash forwarded the PDF with every map attached, which is how you know a man has learned where courage keeps its receipts. "I want to go without disappearing," he wrote. "I'll send pages, not alibis. When I get back, ask me what I wrote before what I did." I taped 2 lines under the lemon magnet because props still save us when God is off shift. Addresses in the open. A good night here voice note every day. He added a third in his careful mess. If an "I can't" is coming, it happens where both of us are. Night 1, wind and a sentence I decided to believe. Today the table forgave me. Night 3, nothing, and my thumb became the worst teenager in the world. I opened the intercom app and stared at the trusted visitors list until the names surrendered and admitted they were only letters, not prophecy. I moved the chair instead. At 8:12 he called with a voice that made the kettle think there might be a God. "I almost kissed a window," he said. "It didn't know your name. I closed the blinds." He came back with a suitcase that didn't slam and 2 pages he treated like animals. "They're not good," he said. "They're mine," I said, and we performed our small religion. Paper, kettle, a room that knows it isn't a lobby. He slid his hands under my shirt from behind, slower than contrition, faster than nostalgia. "Here," he said into the bend of my neck, which is the only word left that has never demanded witnesses. We tried boring. We failed gracefully. We tried again. Roe learned to stand at the back of the house with his arms crossed like a man paying the bill he owes himself. He clapped exactly once after the final scene's kiss and didn't text. For a week, the intercom minded its manners. The building returned to being a noun instead of a plot device. Tests return like weather, indiscriminate and intimate. At 12:22 a.m., the intercom offered fresh mischief, voice recognized. "Deliveries for Ash. Auto-unlock granted." The clip showed a courier with the posture of a man paid to carry other people's courage. He held a white box as if it were an answer. I watched it travel up the stairwell and stop 2 floors short of ours. Rose level, modest door, a mat that said quietly. The transcript wrote the word sorry like it knew how to blush. I didn't call, I waited. The lock cleared its throat at 1:02. Ash stood there with rain in his hair and a sentence ready. He ordered a prop, he said. He asked me to accept it. I told him the building does that now. He said he wanted to see whether I could refuse the part where his name fits in my mouth. I did. Do you want to hate me now or later? I prefer now. I like the way you come back from it. I'm tired of coming back, I said. I want to stay. He nodded and removed Rose's profile from the intercom, not as spectacle but like a man returning a key to a desk that remembers. Then he touched my jaw with 2 fingers, the intimacy director's sacrament, repurposed for domestic faith, and for once the gesture belonged exactly where it landed. We went to bed without performing an essay on forgiveness. We used our mouths the way men do who still prefer heat to cleverness. The room did not applaud. It didn't need to. Weeks alter even honest bruises. The intercom kept its talent for cheerful cruelty, and I learned not to treat it like scripture. The city kept inventing rooms that want to pronounce us. I kept the kettle and the chair we move when words try to riot. On a Tuesday afternoon, a shared album request arrived on my phone. Beat counts contact maps. Members, Ash, me. Sender, Ro. The preview showed a whiteboard with arrows pointing to muscle groups and verbs of consent written in 4 tenses. I let my eyes do the smallest treason, then pressed decline and put my phone down like a witness with decent manners. Ash found me by the sink and placed his palm on the counter, the way we place paper under something warm. He thinks transparency is penance, he said. I think breakfast should be an achievable ritual. Keep breakfast, I said. Return penance. We invited 2 friends and the habit of normalcy to dinner. After they left, Ash set a 3-minute timer on the oven, a small exercise Matt insists on. Speak until the beep, don't interrupt, answer as if time were expensive. When our minutes surrendered, he asked, not with spectacle but with grammar, if he could touch me. I said yes. I won't give you the rest. Keep the arithmetic. 2 bodies that kept their nouns, a breath we shared because we asked, a door that understood the difference between greeting and granting. One more retest, because the world is thorough when it thinks you've studied. At 12:11 a.m., the intercom transcribed another confession. It's me, just checking. The system labeled the voice unknown and offered me 3 options: block, trust, review. I pressed review. The clip was the alley's rain and a breath catching on the edge of a name. I didn't need to hear the last syllable. I pressed block and the screen thanked me like a saint relieved of a duty it didn't deserve. At 12:49, the lock made its tired noise. Ash came in with his hands empty and his mouth unarmed. He wanted to be proved wrong, he said. He wanted to see if the door would love him more than we do. It learned new manners. Do we move the chair? I asked. We can look at it, he said. We did. Then we let the room be a room without an audience. He kissed me like a promise that has learned what interest is, slow and honest, and I will not draw you the rest. The intercom logged nothing except the hour becoming morning, which is some kind of good behavior. Morning behaved. It walked down the hallway like a dog that remembered we remain worth guarding. I made coffee. Ash came behind me and set his palm flat over my chest in that quiet territory between heartbeat and promise. Here, he said, less a word than a careful wait. I put my hand over his and let the day borrow our courage. By noon, the theater posted a still from the talkback, Ash laughing, profile kind. Roe beside him, listening like attention is a sport. The caption thanked donors and said community with grant application sincerity. I did the small treason of measuring the ankle's angle toward a chair, the innocent geometry of candor that is only sometimes innocent. I didn't show Ash. He knows that posture better than I do. He knows how to unlearn it when it matters. We tried boring again and were better at it the second week. The intercom stopped volunteering intimacy. The thermostat minded its job. The chair returned to the wall and stayed unless the night needed honesty in the middle of the room. When the residency house sent a postcard, charcoal drawing of a window, back scribbled in Ash's careful mess. Ask me what I wrote before what I did. I pinned it under the lemon magnet like a clause we had promised to honor. The last test was stupid, which is to say sharp. At 12:23 a.m., a text from an unknown number. I'm downstairs just to talk. Rose blue bubble behaved like deja vu. I deleted it. The intercom remained quiet. The kettle argued for steam. When Ash came home, he emptied his pockets onto the counter. Keys, receipt, a flattened sticker the color of a stage manager's patience. Visitor. He slid it toward me like a bilingual apology. I told the desk to stop taking his signatures, he said. I told myself the same. We stood in the small, humiliating usefulness of that choice. Later in the dark, he kissed me like a man paying dues with the right currency at last. Slow interest, honest arithmetic. If there is a God for quiet forms of bravery, it is the way two hands learn to be accurate again. The intercom slept. The building did not offer an opinion. Tomorrow we'll try again. Doors will pretend they're verbs. Algorithms will offer quizzes dressed as care. Roe will exist where he exists, a person, not a villain. Donors will clap in the wrong places. The city will keep inventing nights that want to name us without asking. But when Ash says here, my body has stopped auditioning for suspicion. If another hour offers me a transcript with the kind of honesty nobody asked for, or a waveform that thinks it can curate our mouths, I hope I remember the handful of humiliating, useful acts that got us through this one. Put water on. Move the chair when words try to riot. Ask why before who. Hold the breath before contact and let it finish being the scene. Then wait for the lock's small throat clearing like it's the first note in a song we can still tune to. We didn't get away with anything. We stayed. We are still staying. The intercom can keep its memory, the river can keep its absolutions, the lobby can keep its glass. We'll keep being the address. Or, on the nights we can't, the map that admits its misprints and still shows the way back. Past the awning that thinks it's a sentence. Past the elevator's red dot that loves its own memory. Into a kitchen where a chair knows what it's for. A kettle keeps its 7:05 appointment, and two hands that have done worse learn again how to touch without asking the night to edit.